Okay, we're now live. Anybody have questions?
No.
Good. Well, Michael was right there, and he was saying he was waiting for me, and now he's not shown up. Okay, hopefully you've turned in your group assignment. A lot of people have. And I thought we would start by going over there, over that. Here is an example. Can you see the graph?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So the scenario starts with this lower EP line, and you have an initial equilibrium at E0 here, where the GDP is Y0. Okay, now we know that aggregate spending is C plus I plus G plus exports minus imports. So in this scenario, when imports go up, that literally shifts the curve vertically. So we go to the new EP line, which is up here. Excuse me. Scenario. What happens initially is at the original level of GDP. Spending is now up here. GDP is down there. So when spending is greater than GDP, what that really means is people are buying at a faster rate than businesses are producing. How can that be? How can people buy more than businesses are producing?
Because they have inventory?
Question for you guys. What happens to stuff on the shelves?
Disappears. People buy it.
It disappears. Yeah. So whenever spending is higher than production, okay, what happens is inventories fall. Okay, and inventories are something that producers pay attention to. So a decrease in inventories is an indicator that they need to change what they're doing. So what they typically do in this situation is they raise prices, because that's easy to do, and they also increase production. But to increase production, they need to hire more workers, okay? So the GDP grows up here. It goes from Y0 to Y1, okay? We have more jobs and we have more incomes. Basically, the economy expands in this direction until GDP once again equals total expenditure. Okay, this line along here is the 45-degree line, but it's also the equation for Y equals EP. In other words, GDP equals total spending. That's our equilibrium condition in this model. Okay, so if EP does not equal GDP, then there are forces that will push us to that equilibrium. Okay, so does that make sense? Do you have questions? Anybody? Riley?
No, I'm all good.
Okay. Megan, you there?
Mm-hmm. I got it.
Okay. And
Looks pretty familiar from what I put. So
Good. All right. So this is a very basic scenario with this model. Anything that increased spending is going to shift up the EP line, just like this graph shows, and it's going to expand the economy. But it also goes the other way. Anything that decreases spending is going to shift the EP line down and cause the economy to contract. So what we would end up at a lower level of GDP with layoffs, basically. Okay, so we're going to be using this model regularly for the rest of the semester. All right. So in this particular week, we're working on fiscal policy. All right. The government has two general sets of tools that it can use to influence the state of the economy. These tools are called fiscal and monetary policy. Monetary policy has to do with causing interest rates to change and making credit more or less available. Okay, we're going to talk about that next week. Fiscal policy is the other tool set, and fiscal refers to the budget. Okay, so fiscal policy refers to making the budget bigger, making the budget deficit bigger or smaller, right? If you think of the budget or the budget as government spending minus taxes, fiscal policy works by either making that difference bigger or making that difference smaller, okay? So suppose we're in a recession. A recession would be like, suppose we're at Y1, but the EP line shifts down to the original one. So at that moment, production is here, GDP is here, but spending has fallen, okay? So in that moment, what's happening is businesses are producing at a faster rate than people want to buy. So what happens to inventories?
They grow.
They grow, and that's a signal that the businesses need to make some adjustments. So typically, the adjustments would be cutting prices, laying people off, and producing less output. So what happens is the economy slides down here to Y0, where we stay. Okay. Now, if we assume that Y1 was our potential GDP, that's going to be the level of GDP that corresponds to full employment. Okay. And now there isn't enough demand to hire up all the people who want jobs. Okay. So, you know, this is kind of the classic scenario of where we're stuck in a recession. Okay. So this is actually a pretty good example of what happened during the Great Recession. We know that in around 2007, the housing market collapsed. And as a result of that, investment in residential structures, which is jargon for home sales, fell. So when investment fell, that's the I term here, the EP line shifted down, and we found ourselves at a lower level of GDP with a lot of unemployment. So in 2009, the Obama administration got a stimulus package through the Congress, and it was really a large stimulus package. It was nearly $900 billion. Okay, and about 2/3 of that was spending increases, and 1/3 of that was tax cuts. Okay, so when government spending increases, the G term shifts up and the EP line moves in this direction, just like it was in this homework problem. Okay, but think about how tax cuts work. Some of the tax cuts were on personal income. Okay, so if your tax liability goes down, your take-home pay goes up, and it's as if you got a pay raise. So how do you respond to that?
Spend more.
You spend more, right? So because of the tax cuts, the C term increased, and that helped push EP up also. On the other hand, some of those tax cuts were actually business tax cuts, and so that caused investment to rise. Okay, so it turned out to be a combination of C and I and G, all of which served to push spending back up and basically jumpstart the economy. Okay.
I have a question. Sorry.
Sure.
Um,
Who's this?
this
I can't see.
This is Megan.
Okay. Yep.
So I get that, like, the process of and like moving from E1 to the original E
Yep.
is considered a recession,
Yes.
but E0 itself is not the recession. It's just the process of moving to E0.
Right. Okay. What I would say is this is the level of GDP where there's enough demand so that everybody in the labor market who wants has a job.
Right.
When we fall into the recession, GDP is so low so that there isn't enough demand to hire all the workers up. Okay. So just as GDP fell, so did employment. So this horizontal distance here is essentially proportional to the increase in unemployment. The further GDP would fall, the greater the unemployment rate would go.
So the difference between like the Y0 on the bottom axis and the Y,
Yes.
that gap is essentially the time lapse, I guess, between how long it's going to take for us to get back to the equilibrium.
Well, it's the time gap that was the period that we fell into the recession. Okay, now if you want to run the problem in reverse by looking at the stimulus package, okay, then yes, going from Y0 to Y1 is a statement about how long and how far we had to go in order to get back to our full employment level.
Okay. But the points themselves, like E1 is not out of the recession. That's just an equilibrium.
It is actually, because E1 corresponds to this level of GDP, and this level of GDP is full employment.
And E0 is also not in recession. It's just the difference between, like, the movement, I guess.
That's not the way that I would say it, but I think you're reasoning correctly.
Okay. I think I got it. I just wanted to make sure.
Because recessions are defined as 6 months of declining GDP. And so going from Y1 to Y0, as long as it persists for at least 6 months, then that's technically a recession.
Okay. All right.
Other questions? So does this make sense then?
Yes.
Okay, good, because this is the basic building block for the rest of the semester. So it's really kind of important that you get it. And I am pretty sure that you guys get it.
Still there?
Okay. So what I suggest you do is read the module on fiscal policy if you haven't already. And then beginning next week, we're going to shift over, well, sort of beginning next week. Next week is kind of a extra time. When you get done with the fiscal policy module, then start reading the monetary policy module. There's a lot more there than there is in the fiscal policy module, because we haven't talked that much about money and financial markets. We did that initial introduction to it, but now you can do the rest of the module, and you can do the module quiz, and hopefully it'll make sense to you. And then the next time we meet, which won't be next Wednesday because I don't think anybody's going to have class on their mind next Wednesday, we will talk about the hard part about monetary policy, which is the monetary policy mechanism. If you haven't read the module, you don't know what I'm talking. Actually, what's going on is easy. Figuring out the math is complicated, but it's not so complicated that we can't get it to work.
Right.
All right. If nobody has any questions, I would love to finally end my workday.
I just have one comment for you real quick, sir.
Sure, absolutely.
And this for the rest of the group is I went out on YouTube and I found one of your videos on the income expenditure. Actually, it's a 3-video set.
Yeah, if you go to the topic pages on the course website on the of monitoring on this material. Okay, so you don't.
I'm sorry, sir. You froze up on us there.
Here, let me show
If
you.
you go to the topic pages. What? You froze up on us.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
They're very helpful though, the videos.
Yeah, those ones in the topic thing that he's talking about, they like broke everything down really nicely.
Yeah, that's where I found everything too.
Yeah. Glad we're on the same page, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
All right, tell me, guys, what is this about the topic pages? I'm not familiar with the topic pages.
I just typed in the expenditure model on Google, and his topic, his videos came up. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're also under,
That's not.
If you scroll down to the topic pages here,
yeah.
and you click on
Topic.
one,
I believe.
okay, then what you'll see from here on out are a collection of videos of mine.
Oh,
Right.
Sweet. Yeah.
So you can get what I just said, but in more detail.
Perfect.
Yeah, that really helps.
Except, it won't be as entertaining as me because it's just a video.
I found it funny when people didn't know the answers you asked in class, so that was funny.
Oh
Yeah.
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 I got tickled with the girl who said, "I don't know."
Yeah.
Yes. I had some of that today in my face-to-face class. So anyway. All right. Well, I will let you go now. If nobody has any more questions or comments.
That's all good.
Have a good night.